Consistent shapes are critical. You can stretch and mobilize all you want, but if you are not consistently in efficient and strong positions, you only have one piece of the puzzle. Now, last month I was speaking with a mother who was super physically active. Let's say that she was lifting weights a few times a week and crushed some really high intensity interval training. However, she's been having some on and off low back pain that really bugged her. She was working with a coach who was doing such amazing work. Her glutes, hamstrings, and quads were stronger than ever, but she was still having that issue with pulling out her back every few weeks. After speaking with her for a few minutes, I quickly concluded that although she was strong in her lower extremities, particularly around the hips, it wasn't the lack of strength that was the problem, but it was the consistency of her positions. Now, if you search for any sort of exercise, there's going to be a set list of instructions to follow. The end goal of most exercises is to start and stop in the same positions. And the core, the area in between the pelvis and the shoulders, should stay a consistent shape. However, if you see most people, even yourself, the start and stop positions are quite different, and often the core may change shape during the specific exercise. An example is when someone is picking an object off of the floor. Initially, the back stays flat, and then it gets arched, and then rounded, and then back to flat again. Now, as discussed yesterday, poor positioning or poor form doesn't really exist. You're going to have to pick up your child from the floor in an awkward position. You can't always squat with your weight distributed onto your heels all the time. The most important part of all exercises is to have consistency with our shapes and positions, particularly at the midline. If you start an exercise with a rounded back, you have to maintain a rounded back throughout the motion, and vice versa if you have an arched back. Any extra motion that happens around the core is usually happening at the spine. That extra motion is going to cause irritation. So how can you maintain a stable core and consistent shape throughout an exercise? Replay this quote in your head. Every exercise and movement begins at the core. The harder or heavier object you're moving, the harder you have to contract your midline. Now, if you're completing multiple reps of an exercise, every rep should look the same regardless of how tired and regardless of how heavy that weight feels. The consistency is going to help you significantly throughout your journey to recover from your low back pain. Now, just like a Ferrari needs to have a rigid frame to drive fast and bank around corners, you need to have a stable midline to perform your activities regardless of your position. You got this.